The pup quivered in my grasp, its coarse coat scraping my skin like a bundle of electrified thorns. Its pulse raced wildly, threatening to explode, while my own thrummed in sync with that desperate terror. Surrounding us, three figures prowled like predators closing in on vulnerable game. Their mocking chuckles pierced the empty highway, reverberating with a sinister chill. As they advanced, the gap narrowed, and the atmosphere felt suffocating. Escape was impossible. One reached out mockingly, his tone laced with malice. "Drop it, darling. Canines don't tolerate deceit." His companions erupted in guffaws, reveling in my dread like it was some complimentary late-night spectacle. I clutched the little one closer to my body, disregarding the strain in my limbs and the immobilizing dread that rooted my feet. Canines didn't frighten me. It was brutes like these that did, the sort who spot a lone female on an abandoned stretch and assume they dictate her destiny. I parted my lips to utter a word, any plea to halt them, but they scarcely stirred. Then, abruptly, twin beams of illumination sliced the gloom. The steady growl of a robust motor followed, as a sleek black SUV braked sharply mere yards distant, flinging up moist gravel from the pavement. The operator's door swung open with unhurried precision, as though this icy evening held no peril. A lanky figure emerged from the car. No yells or profanities escaped him, no elevation in volume. He simply positioned himself upright and motionless, exuding a subdued command far more daunting than any menace. His stare fixed on the trio, and in a steady, unwavering baritone he commanded, "Scram!" That timbre, that ironclad poise, prompted even the boldest to retreat. Uneasy whispers supplanted their mirth. At last, they withdrew, vanishing into the shadows like mist swept by a breeze. He pivoted toward me. His demeanor remained tranquil, excessively so after such a charged standoff. His gaze assessed me methodically, ensuring I remained intact. That breath still filled my lungs. "Any injuries?" he inquired evenly. I denied with a shake, my limbs shaking as I cradled the pup. "Yours?" he probed, nodding toward the creature nestled against me. I gulped and managed, "No, just rescued him." My words faltered there. He inclined his head once, satisfied with the detail. He proffered his palm, not in my direction, but toward the animal. "He's frightened, like you. Come on, I'll extract you from this." Something in his inflection, a blend of command and tenderness, dissolved my defenses then. I trailed him to the SUV, refusing to release the pup. Once inside, aromas of hide and brew enveloped me. Heated currents from the outlets banished the chill ingrained in my flesh for days, perhaps longer. He fine-tuned the reflectors with exact motions, ignited the motor, and eased forward. A profound hush enveloped the cabin. Yet it differed from the ominous quiet of the outer path. No menace lingered. Instead, it offered room to exhale. The pup nestled in my lap, gradually ceasing its shivers. I mirrored that calm. Time blurred before his words pierced the stillness. "Name." "Lena Brooks." "Nathan Crawford," he responded, gaze unwavering on the route, avoiding my eyes. No further queries came, no insistence on accounts. He merely guided the vehicle as urban glows dimmed and foliage loomed like murmuring barriers on either side. Eventually, we arrived at a gated estate. Past the barrier, a contemporary dwelling rose amid the timberland, akin to a shard of overlooked crystal amid the foliage. Using a fob, Nathan unlatched the portal and proceeded along the driveway. "The guest cottage is yours," he stated plainly, as if harboring an unknown was utterly routine. "It's isolated from my place, privacy assured." I shadowed him wordlessly, pup secure in my hold. As he unlocked the entry, aromas of varnished timber and soft luminescence welcomed me. My legs nearly buckled. Mere hours prior, I'd braced for a night on some transit depot seat. Now, a fortified haven awaited, enclosing barriers free of condemnation. Nathan placed keys atop the surface. Provisions in the cooler, linens in the lavatory. Secure it after me. We'll discuss requirements come morning. He regarded me steadily a beat longer, then murmured, "You appear unrested for ages." Speech eluded me. A lump constricted my windpipe, for despite our unfamiliarity, he'd perceived far too much. I barely managed a whisper. "Thanks, seriously." He offered a faint nod before slipping away, abandoning me to the steady drone of the radiator and the soft snores of Chance, who'd already dozed off on the rug. I sank onto the bed's corner. My fingers still shook, but now it stemmed from something else entirely: pure ease. After so many years, solitude no longer defined me. That delicate, wondrous sensation enveloped me like an exhale I'd long believed was beyond my reach. On that initial evening in the cottage, with the heater's glow cradling me, recollections dragged me down like an unyielding current. I shut my eyes, yet quiet didn't come. Echoes from bygone days rushed in. The tale began well prior to that shadowy highway, ages before Nathan and his steady stare. I came of age in a cramped flat over a tool shop in Portland, Oregon. It was only Mom and I. My dad vanished when I hit 5. No explosive arguments, no bags hurled from the landing, no dramatic flair like in films. Just a scrap of paper on the counter and a drained savings. That straightforward, that harsh. Mom wept for days on end. Eventually, her sobs ceased, and her features set like granite. She pulled extra hours at the clinic. She'd return in scrubs marred by weariness, shadows etched beneath her eyes, and a fixed expression of irritation. Still, she ensured I had textbooks, meals, and shelter that held firm. I never expressed my gratitude sufficiently, though I observed her unravel each evening. By 17, Mom crossed paths with Mark. He struck me as upright, perhaps overly so. Initially, he appeared a blessing. He'd arrive with blooms, clear the plates post-meal, and chuckle heartily at the most basic quips. I yearned to trust in him for her benefit, since she merited a partner to nurture her, to restore a fraction of the warmth existence had snatched. Yet Mark's facade started to fracture gradually. His remarks, once minor and overlooked, sharpened into blades. He'd gripe about my footwear near the entrance, the fridge that's partly bare, or my supposed laziness at home. I attempted to brush it off, assuring myself I was exaggerating, but every barb sliced further. It wasn't laziness on my part. From 16 onward, I'd clocked in at a cafe on weekends, stashing cash for university, and whenever funds ran low for utilities, I'd step in. Flawless. No. But I gave it my all. Regardless, satisfaction eluded us. Mark tolerated me poorly, and though he held back the outright declaration, his actions screamed it, each motion, each scornful glance. I sensed my existence irked him, as though it highlighted a slice of Mom's history forever out of his grasp. The tipping point arrived on an ordinary evening. I'd prepared spaghetti, nothing fancy, but prepared thoughtfully. Mark rose suddenly, bellowing, claiming I'd chosen the incorrect pot. I retorted, weary of his barbs, and that's when he unleashed the line that seared me like molten metal. "You're exactly like your dad, useless and eager to bolt at the first sign of trouble." I went rigid. The statement pierced me like thunder. But the true agony wasn't his delivery. It was witnessing Mom's response. Rather than shield me, she pounded the surface and demanded I say sorry. To him, the one who'd likened me to our family's rawest ache. In that moment, a piece of me shattered irreparably. I dashed to my space, stuffed garments into a satchel, snatched my drawing pad and the earnings I'd tucked away. Mom trailed to the threshold, her gaze stretched wide as if debating intervention. But silence prevailed. Not one syllable. She simply allowed my departure. That very night, I boarded a coach heading northward. An address scrawled on a holiday greeting from Dad, sent when I was 13, guided me. I gripped that possibility tightly, despite its fragility, akin to a structure of tissue. Following endless miles, I reached a humble dwelling. A lady answered, toddlers clutching her calves, her visage weary yet gentle. She regarded me with recognition and murmured gently, "He's away. Hasn't been around in months. He's built his own world." She permitted a night on her couch. Come morning, though, she requested I stay gone. Harsh, no, merely conclusive. Thus began my wandering. Village to village, chasing fleeting gigs, loaned bedding, a nook to belong, if only briefly. The sole unchanging thread was the ache of rootlessness. And amid that void, I wound up on that stretch of pavement, clutching a pup that wasn't mine, facing three figures who stripped me bare like the 5-year-old witnessing her father's fade. Such was my legacy. Hidden wounds that gaped anew whenever anyone underscored my inadequacy. The hush in the cottage ran profound enough to catch the radiator's persistent buzz and Chance's even breaths, who lay there fast asleep. Addie had nestled himself right there on the ground, claiming the spot like it was his from the start. I remained perched on the bed's edge, the backpack still strapped to my back. I couldn't bring myself to remove it, as if doing so would force me to admit I was truly secure. My fingers shook, not from any chill, but from that unfamiliar sensation I'd gone without for ages. Relief. Beneath me, the bed felt solid yet cushioned. The linens carried the fresh scent of laundry soap and fresh timber. It struck me as an impossible indulgence next to the unforgiving seats at bus terminals, the temporary sofas from friends, or the unyielding surfaces I'd crashed on over the last few weeks. The refrigerator brimmed with provisions for a crowd: eggs, milk, loaves of bread, and ripe produce. In the bath, fluffy white towels stood ready. None of the coarse, worn-out rags I'd used for clandestine washes at coin laundries. It all felt excessively perfect, effortlessly so, almost dreamlike. I eased myself down gradually, but kept my footwear on. The ingrained urge to bolt at a second's notice guided every move. Shutting my eyes, I attempted to surrender to slumber. Yet the recollections surged in. Mark's tone reverberated through my thoughts, that single line looping endlessly like an unyielding chorus. "You're no better than your dad. Useless, always fleeing when the going gets rough." My lids snapped open and pressure gripped my ribcage. Why did that sting so deeply? Because somewhere inside, I dreaded it might hold truth. I'd fled my family home, my mother, a history that choked the life out of me. I'd sought out my dad, only to find no room left for me there. Now, sheltered beneath a stranger's roof, I pondered if existence boiled down to endless retreats. Propping myself up once more, I dragged my palms across my cheeks, striving to root myself in the now. Chance shifted in his doze, emitting a faint whine. Glancing his way, I managed a faint smile for the first time in days, however tentative. He had no one watching over him either. Still, he dozed as though he'd claimed his territory. Perhaps that young dog could teach me to embrace the instant, to have faith despite the pain, despite the terror. Nathan's figure resurfaced in my mind, his steady timbre during the drive, his composure facing those guys. No interrogations from him, no condemnation. He'd simply offered a refuge. "You seem like someone who's missed out on real rest for far too long," he'd remarked, and that straightforward comment had shattered my barriers. Who was this man, truly? Why aid a total unknown in the sticks? I fought against the notion that kindness could come without strings. Experience had taught me to eye the open-handed warily, for they invariably sought recompense down the line. The clock on the wall chimed 2 a.m, yet my gaze remained locked upward, staring at the plaster. The heater's gentle warmth started to coax me toward drowsiness, but whenever repose approached, a spike of doubt jolted me awake. "Don't grow attached," I warned myself. "This isn't permanent. It's illusory. You'll need to depart come dawn. Yet a softer, more tentative inner voice whispered, perhaps not at dawn. Perhaps the next day brings change. At last, I tucked myself into the covers, this time slipping off my shoes, a modest yet significant step. I sealed my eyes and permitted weariness to overtake me bit by bit. Visions of my weary mom, Mark's furious shouts, my vanished father started to dissolve, giving way to the glow of that bedside light and the soft rustle of trees outside. Sleep didn't claim me fully, but for the first time in weeks, dread didn't clamp down on me amid the shadows. And along that hazy divide between alertness and dreams, with Chance's breaths at my side and a sturdy shelter overhead, a long-lost sensation stirred. The possibility that room still existed for me somewhere in this vast place. Sunlight streamed golden through the guesthouse pane as my eyes fluttered open. For an instant, disorientation hit. I figured I was back in some transit hub or on another sofa. Then the reliable warmth from the heater registered, along with the subtle aroma of polished floors and the steady wag of a tail against the boards. Chance, thrilled at my stirring, was quick to affirm I had company. I rose deliberately, balancing that blend of ease and wariness that comes with navigating strange territory. Uncertainty lingered. Bolt before Nathan reconsidered his offer, or hold steady. A gentle rap at the door cut through my musings. Lena. No, Nathan's tone, even-keeled as the previous evening. I stood and cracked it open, a touch reluctant. He appeared in a plain gray tee, locks still moist from a recent rinse. With a nod, he beckoned me along. Food's on. Join when you're set, and don't forget the pup, he added, nodding toward Chance, who bounded about me like he'd grasped the cue without flaw. The aroma of brewed coffee and sizzling bacon wrapped around me the moment I stepped into the primary dwelling. The cooking space resembled a spread from a glossy periodical, complete with... The room featured wide counters, pale wooden surfaces, and sunlight pouring into every nook. Nathan plated up some eggs and toast casually. Like breaking bread with an unknown person was just another ordinary moment. I picked at my food deliberately. My gut knotted from the unease of taking what I hadn't worked for. He stayed quiet at first, sipping his coffee without a word. After a bit, he nudged a folder my way over the tabletop. Here, this is yours. My fingers shook as I flipped it open. It contained a straightforward contract, outlining duties like basic tidying, washing clothes, occasional meal prep, and stocking the kitchen shelves. No big demands, nothing out of reach. I glanced up at him, puzzled. What's all this? Some kind of position? I require help maintaining the property, and you could use a spot to settle. The statement hit me like a wave, leaving me reeling. It felt straightforward, not a veiled kindness or pity, just a direct offer. Yet instinct made me question it. I'm no maid, I murmured softly. I can handle cooking and scrubbing, but... Nathan met my eyes, his face stern yet kind. That'll do. The other stuff you can pick up. Why put faith in me? You have no idea who I am, I pressed, wishing that might make him reconsider, though he merely lifted his shoulders. I saw you rescue a lost pup and stand up to 3 bruisers who outweighed you. That's all the endorsement I need. Words failed me. I'd brace for distrust, questions, sneaky catches. But here he was, handing over employment and shelter with effortless ease. Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them away fast. Drawing in a steadying breath, I whispered, All right, I'll take it. For an instant, his features eased, a subtle shift in that firm demeanor. Great, begin now. He passed me a key ring and a bank card bearing his name, meant for food runs and essentials. That daybreak, after ages, a warmth stirred inside me, a hint of roots taking hold. I busied myself wiping down racks, sorting drawers, and fixing a basic lunch. Chance trailed behind me, ears perked, ever the vigilant little protector. As dusk fell, I sat out on the cottage steps, gazing at the sunset filtering through the branches. Chance dozed by my side, while I clutched those keys like priceless gems. They weren't mere steel, they symbolized security, a haven where I could linger without dreading an early morning eviction. I reclined against the balustrade and exhaled deeply. Doubt lingered still, that inner whisper insisting good fortunes fade fast. Yet alongside it grew a fresh shoot, the chance for a humble, fresh start. That evening, with Chance's gentle snores filling the space and my mind mapping tomorrow's chores, it dawned on me. Perhaps, after endless flight, I'd stumbled into refuge in the unlikeliest spot. The daily pattern wove into my life softly, like a persistent drizzle. Each dawn, I'd grind fresh brew, catch the faint noises from the big house where Nathan was already stirring, then dive into my rounds, mopping floors, straightening up, whipping up easy dishes. Chance stuck to me like glue, a devoted companion. The chores lacked flash, but they restored a framework, a beat I'd misplaced years back. And within that neatness, room emerged for a passion I'd tucked away long before. One evening, rummaging in my bag, my hand brushed the frayed binding of a drawing pad. I'd lugged it through every hasty departure and pit stop, despite ignoring it for months. The pages curled at the tips, some crinkled from dampness, carrying a trace of faded pencil lead. I pulled it free carefully, as if unlocking a long-sealed chamber. Initially, I wavered. What point in sketching when that ambition lay shattered? But the forest's quiet and the cabin's peace urged me onward. I located a gnawed stub of pencil, my final one, and began modestly. Chance's outline curled up outside. My grip quivered, awkward initially, but soon the motions flowed back, smooth as before. Lines danced across the sheet, reclaiming a grace I'd believed gone for good. Hours slipped into darkness unnoticed. When I paused, the space was shadowed, lit only by the tender marks on the page. Staring at it, emotion tightened my chest. Flawed, sure, but alive. And that hidden vitality, that throb on the canvas, was a craving I'd nursed endlessly. The following morning, tidying Nathan's central lounge, I set the pad down briefly. Returning, there he stood outside, flipping through it. My pulse raced. "Did you make this?" he inquired, angling it toward the glow to highlight each line. I went rigid. "Yeah, sorry, it wasn't for your eyes." "No need to apologize," he replied evenly, his look moving from the sketch to mine. "Your excellent, truly excellent." Heat rose to my face. It had been ages since someone recognized that part of me. I brushed it off with a shrug. "It's merely a pastime. I pursued accounting in school. Something sensible." Nathan arched a brow, as though his comment held up a reflection of my true self. "You come across like someone echoing expectations thrust upon you." I was at a loss for words. He had nailed it. That evening, sleep eluded me. His remarks echoed relentlessly in my thoughts. It went beyond him simply noticing me. He had affirmed a facet of myself I'd suppressed out of apprehension and obligation. The following day, upon his return from the village, he carried a parcel tucked under his arm. He set it down on the kitchen surface and uttered, "This is for you." My fingers shook as I unwrapped it. Within lay a fresh assortment of pencils and a pad of pristine, unmarked white sheets. I inhaled sharply. "I can't take this," I stuttered. "Nonsense you can, you're putting in the effort. You've merited it. Think of it as a prepayment on your wages." A lump formed in my throat. I clutched the sketch pad close and managed only a faint, "Thanks." Nathan gave a single nod in his understated manner, free of theatrics, then headed to his study. I lingered, gazing at those empty sheets, like they represented an invitation. Perhaps they did. That very afternoon, with Chance sprawled by my side, I covered the initial page, followed by a second, then a third. The woodland veiled in fog, the cabin bathed in dawn's warm glow, Nathan's silhouette while brewing coffee in the kitchen. Every sketch restored a fragment of who I was. It transcended mere lead marks on paper. It was my essence, my declaration of endurance. As the pencil danced across the surface, I sensed a shift within. The ache I'd harbored for years started to evolve. Creativity turned into my sanctuary, the quiet remedy I'd craved. That evening, as I tucked away the sketch pad with care, a genuine smile crossed my lips. The first in what felt like forever. It was a tranquil afternoon. Sunlight pierced the branches, and I was in the primary residence's kitchen, working dough for the evening meal, when the crunch of tires on the drive reached my ears. Chance, snoozing beneath the table, lifted his head and let out a single woof. I dried my hands on a cloth and glanced outside. A polished, gleaming silver vehicle, straight from a showroom, pulled up at the front. A statuesque, impeccably groomed woman emerged. Her ebony locks were swept into a flawless chignon, and her stilettos tapped sharply on the gravel walkway. She seemed out of place amid the hush of this retreat, clashing with the woodland's peace. She evoked an image from a glossy publication. Nathan stepped onto the veranda right as she shut the door. I couldn't catch their initial exchange, but his stiffened stance, shoulders squared, frame unyielding, suggested this arrival was unwelcome. Nevertheless, he ushered her inside. My pulse raced. "Mind your own affairs," I chided myself repeatedly. Yet my steps drew me to the corridor where I could eavesdrop unseen. "Act like you don't grasp my reason for coming." Her tone was gentle yet cutting, akin to a blade sheathed in silk. "You're squandering effort on her." A shiver coursed through me. "Claire, Lena's no concern of yours," Nathan countered. His voice carried an unaccustomed edge, nearly frosty. "She isn't living on your land, pretending at domesticity while you—" Claire paused, likely spotting the steel in Nathan's stare. "All I'm pointing out is your standing. Folks gossip." The quiet that followed was thick. I had to stifle my breathing. "Let them gossip," he responded at last, each syllable resolute. "You hold no sway over whom I assist or confide in." Claire's reply turned to a poisonous murmur. "Assist. Is that your term for it?" I endured no further. My hands quivered. I retreated to the kitchen, gut twisting as if punched. That stranger had voiced my deepest dread. To Nathan, I was just a charitable endeavor, a fix for some emptiness in his world. The tightness in my throat threatened to overwhelm. I struggled to complete the dough. As darkness settled over the home that night, I stuffed a compact knapsack. The impulse to flee surged anew, overpowering. I refused to weigh him down. I refused to be the specter others wielded against him. I was zipping it shut when a rap sounded at the door. Chance issued a wary growl. I halted, bag in grasp. Cautiously, I unlatched it. Nathan stood there, propped against the jamb. His features were inscrutable. "Claire's departed," he stated flatly. I dipped my head, dodging his eyes. "She's correct. Perhaps I ought not stay." His brow furrowed. "Don't presume to speak for me." His delivery was more commanding than ever. "Stay." The breath whooshed from me. I met his eyes, probing for hesitation, but discovered only resolve. "Why stand up for me?" I whispered, voice cracking. "You scarcely know me." Nathan locked onto my gaze, and for the first time I glimpsed fragility beneath his steady facade. "I know you sufficiently. You're a dedicated worker. You refuse charity and you've revived this house from its slump. I refuse to let a single resentful opinion sway you from that truth." My eyes welled up with tears. I collapsed onto the mattress, the knapsack next to me, and Chance nestled at my feet like he was endorsing my choice. Nathan lingered in the threshold a second longer, ensuring his message sank in. Then he departed, shutting the door with a gentle click. Alone now, my emotions surged uncontrollably. After years without it, someone finally believed in me fully. No strings attached. That straightforward act of trust meant more than every hollow vow I'd encountered before. That evening, I chose to remain. The time after Claire's arrival unfolded in a misleading tranquility. I stuck to my habits, cooking meals, maintaining the home's order, sketching quietly during spare intervals. Nathan appeared more absorbed in his pursuits than usual, yet I'd occasionally spot him glancing my way sidelong, as though words hovered on his tongue, but he held them back. One evening, as I wiped down the plates post-dinner, he entered the kitchen. He paused in the entrance, arms folded, wearing a solemn look that unsettled me. "Mind if we chat?" he inquired. I agreed with a cautious dip of my head, setting the dish down on the counter. The gravity in his voice signaled this was no light matter. Nathan inhaled deeply prior to proceeding. "My folks are arriving this weekend." I wasn't sure how to respond. I'd only caught fleeting, detached mentions of them before. "Dad's health is declining," he added after a beat. "Cardiac issues. Mom frets excessively over him and over my life." I observed him quietly, puzzling out his intent. They believe I'm too isolated. They push for me to commit, to build a household. Nathan offered a wry grin, like the pressure chafed at him, and I suspect they'll raise it once more during their stay. I cocked my head, still grasping the point. "So, how am I involved?" He met my eyes steadily, and for a moment a raw openness surfaced that I'd never witnessed in him. "I need a favor from you, Lena. A significant one." Breath caught in my chest. "Could you act as my fiancée solely for the weekend, until they head back to Atoria?" The dishcloth tumbled from my grip to the tiles. "What?" "My fiancé," he restated evenly, despite the strain I detected in his clenched jaw. "It won't require theatrics, just sufficient to convince them I'm stable, that I'm forging a future to ease their concerns, especially Dad's added burdens." I gaped at him, anticipating a laugh or admission that this was preposterous. But his demeanor stayed resolute. "You expect me, your stand-in maid, to abruptly play your fiancé." His gaze warmed a touch. "You've become far more than that, and precisely because I rely on you. You've breathed new energy into this home." Heat flooded my cheeks. I pivoted away, feigning concentration on stowing the utensils, though my movements grew fumbling. "This is madness," I breathed. "What if I blow it? What if they uncover the deception?" "They won't," he countered with conviction. "Simply be who you are. You're genuine. You connect with others. That's what they'll observe." The quiet lingered. Visions swirled in my thoughts. Me beside Nathan, simulating closeness that wasn't real. His parents probing with queries, scrutinizing my every move for inconsistencies. My gut urged flight, a retreat from such visibility. I dedicated years to blending into shadows. Yet here, he urged the reverse, to step into the spotlight. But his features revealed a deeper struggle. By seeking my aid, he exposed his own frailty. He loathed seeking assistance, yet persisted. And within me, the same impulse that had trailed him into shadows refused to abandon him now. I drew in a steadying breath, battling the dread, and at last whispered, "All right, I'll agree, but if it backfires, that's your responsibility." A faint smile ghosted his mouth. "Agreed." He approached a cabinet and retrieved a petite velvet case. As he revealed it, a modest, elegant silver band caught the overhead glow. He offered it to me with care. My hand shook while I slid it onto my ring finger. The metal's chill settled oddly comfortably against my flesh, like it was meant to be there all along. I glimpsed my image in the glass pane and quivered. This was merely a part, a fleeting disguise. Yet the ring's heft whispered otherwise. Nathan watched wordlessly. His face held gravity, but a novel spark danced in his eyes. "Prepare yourself," he concluded. "My parents arrive Saturday morning." I nodded, knots twisting in my belly. The serene stretch had ended. Now I must transform into something I'd never envisioned. As Nathan Crawford's fiancée, that was my supposed mode of existence. Come Saturday morning, the entire home appeared to pause in anticipation. I positioned myself before the mirror, anxiously flattening the azure gown he'd placed on the guest cottage's bed the previous evening. It lacked extravagance, yet it flowed gently across my figure, lending me a sense of transformation, as though I truly fit within these surroundings. From his spot on the rug, Chance observed me, tilting his head curiously, tongue lolling like he was pondering the same question. "You certain about this?" "Not at all," I murmured to him with a trembling grin, even as my fingers steadily caressed the silver band encircling my digit. The entrance creaked open quietly, revealing Nathan, clean-shaven and clad in a garment I'd previously spotted only in his wardrobe. Flawless. He halted briefly upon spotting me, just long enough for warmth to flood my face. "You appear stunning," he uttered softly, then coughed lightly while fiddling with his sleeves, as if minimizing his compliment. Before I could respond, the crunch of wheels on the driveway gravel reached our ears. A wave of dizziness overtook me entirely. Their vehicle pulled up to the residence, and in an instant, the air shifted. We emerged onto the veranda side by side. My pulse thundered as if it might burst free from my ribcage. A lady exited first, her gaze brimming with warmth, a woolen wrap draped around her throat. Trailing her was a gentleman with silvery locks, moving deliberately, his strides steady yet deliberate, each one seeming to demand deliberate control. "Mom, Dad." Nathan gave my palm a subtle press and presented me. "This is Lena, my intended." A flash of astonishment crossed his mother's features, swiftly morphing into a broad, quivering grin. She advanced promptly, enveloping me in a firm embrace, and declared, "Welcome to our circle, sweetheart." I'd begun to wonder if I'd ever encounter the one who could rein in my boy. I chuckled uneasily, but the reassuring grip of Nathan's fingers bolstered my resolve. His dad, meanwhile, studied me closely, prior to clasping my hand with vigor. "He's fortunate," he remarked in a subdued yet affectionate tone. "See that he doesn't overlook it." The day progressed with an effortless rhythm that caught me off guard. We shared a midday meal in the cooking area, exchanging tales from Nathan's youth. His mom chuckled while describing his childhood tumble from a branch in an attempt to wow his pals, and I absorbed it all, captivated as these recollections formed the mosaic, revealing the person I was gradually understanding. Later that day, we strolled the estate grounds. Nathan's dad, for all his measured gait, gestured toward various woodland spots, evoking memories of seaside vacations and lazy hours angling along the Columbia River. His tone wavered when he mentioned his delicate condition, and his spouse tenderly linked her arm with his. Observing them, a sharp ache tugged at my heart. How long had it been since I'd witnessed such understated yet profound devotion? Upon our return, his mom drew near with a modest parcel. She offered me a hand-knitted woolen wrap in soft beige and slate tones. "I crafted this during the prior winter, uncertain of its recipient," she explained with a gentle beam. Now it's clear. The plush material in my grasp drew a soft exhale from me. Aside from my own mother in a distant past, no one had ever bestowed upon me a creation born of such devoted time and tenderness. I pulled her into a close hug, concealing the moisture welling in my eyes. Evening arrived, and following supper we gathered by the hearth on the veranda. Dialogue meandered amid chuckles, narratives, and easy lulls. I, who had long shunned kin assemblies out of dread of seeming out of place, discovered myself beaming genuinely, as if this spot had always been mine. Afterward, as his folks retired, I lingered on the veranda, contemplating the night sky. Nathan joined me bearing 2 steaming mugs of tea. He passed one over, and after a prolonged quiet, he whispered, "They grin today like they haven't in ages." "It's simple to care for them," I answered, cradling my mug. He regarded me briefly, flames dancing in his gaze. Then, in a hushed breath that bordered on a whisper, he added, "You evoke the essence of belonging for me." His statement landed with both gravity and levity. I fixed my eyes on him, striving to imprint the instant indelibly. For the first occasion in ages, I sensed no pretense. What we'd staged for his parents' comfort was evolving into something profoundly authentic. By Sunday afternoon, as their auto vanished along the lane, a profound hush enveloped the dwelling. All felt overly tranquil, like the coziness they'd imparted had departed alongside them. I still clutched the wrap from his mom, its texture plush and comforting, fingering it as though I might retain a fragment that had never quite been mine. That evening, rest eluded me. One persistent idea looped endlessly in my thoughts. It was merely a performance, nothing more. The grins, the embraces, the looks exchanged, all fabricated to soothe his parents. I'd permitted myself to surrender to that mirage, and now the burden of reality pressed down. The burden was weighing me down. By daybreak, I'd resolved to leave. With fumbling hands, I stuffed my meager possessions into my backpack and grabbed Chance's leash. He gazed up at me with sparkling eyes, his tail gently tapping the ground, clearly puzzled by my resolute expression as I prepared to depart. Right then, footsteps approached from behind. I spun around, and there he stood, Nathan in the doorway, his brow furrowed, like he'd anticipated this very instant. "Where do you think you're headed?" he inquired, his tone low yet resolute. I gulped and mustered a smile that never touched my gaze. "The time has come for me to move on. You've offered me far more than I merit. I can't keep imposing on your kindness." He stared at me, bemused by my explanation. "Imposing, Lena. Is that how you see what happened here?" I averted my eyes, gripping the leash tighter. "Everything, the ring, the meals, the grins for your folks, it was all pretend. I let it get to me too deeply, and that's on me." Nathan advanced gradually until he was mere steps away. "It wasn't pretend," he said. My breath caught. "When I proposed faking an engagement, it wasn't just to spin a tale," he went on, his voice tender and exposed like never before. "I wanted them to glimpse what I was beginning to sense myself. This place felt hollow without you. I'd return each evening to a quiet that consumed me. Then you showed up, with a frightened pup and a notebook brimming with sketches. And just like that, vitality returned. Hot tears stung my eyes before I could hold them back. I shook my head, murmuring scarcely audibly, "Please don't." He closed the gap further, his nearness enveloping me like a safe haven. "You're worth far more than you realize. You escaped a history that wounded you, yet you summoned the resolve to press forward. You transform suffering into creativity. You nurture every creature that crosses your path, even those dismissed as insignificant. Even me." A fractured chuckle escaped amid my sobs. "Insignificant. You." Nathan's lips curved into that rare lopsided smile. "I felt that way plenty of times, but never around you." Salty streams traced paths down my face. For the first time in ages, someone had picked me. Not for my usefulness, not out of necessity, not from duty, but purely for who I am. That realization shattered me even as it mended my spirit. Instinctively, I released my backpack and the leash. My shaky fingers sought his, and he clasped them steadily, as though he'd longed for this touch eternally. "Stay, please," he murmured. "Not because I require help around the house. Remain because I can't bear for this. For us. To slip away." The word "us" lingered in the air, more binding than any vow. All I managed was a nod, my voice choked by feeling. Gently, without haste, he drew me into his embrace, handling me with the delicacy of someone wary of causing harm. I leaned my brow against his torso, attuned to the rhythmic pulse of his heartbeat, allowing my tears to dampen his shirt. This hold differed from any I'd known before. It held no sympathy, no compulsion. It was deliberate. Chance, sensing the gravity, settled at our feet and pressed his nose to my footwear, releasing a deep, contented exhale that felt like quiet endorsement. I lingered there, encircled by Nathan's hold with my loyal dog, as our unspoken observer, realizing that after years of fleeing, I was finally standing still. I was deciding. And in that clasp, tears still flowing, I understood that what began as deception had uncovered its reality. 3 months slipped by since that tearful afternoon when I chose to remain. Days unfolded differently now, not with the haste of escape, but with the serenity of someone beginning to establish foundations. The modest guest house shifted from a fleeting refuge to a true dwelling. My sparse items gradually expanded. Garments neatly stacked in drawers, volumes beside the bed, stacks of sketch pads on a rack that Nathan had mounted for me. Chance claimed a spot by the pane, though he preferred curling up close to my ankles at night. What once seemed like confinement turned into comfort. Mornings brought brewing coffee, wiping down pains, immersing in my artwork while sunlight gilded the woods. Bonds with Nathan's family deepened through their regular drop-ins. His mom enveloped me in welcomes like an old kin, bestowing crocheted wraps or pots of homemade peach preserve. His dad, ever composed, offered kind remarks. "You've got a real knack for tending this land," he noted one evening as we strolled the grounds. "It radiates care." Those understated praises moved me profoundly. With Nathan, our connection evolved profoundly, though unspoken much of the time. We were discovering how to share a life. Mornings meant shared meals laced with chuckles, quiet evenings on the veranda where I'd sketch as he pored over documents, and evening rambles with Chance through the fading light. Afternoon arrived without any tension. What started as a spontaneous agreement had evolved into a life together. During one of those peaceful mornings, Nathan invited me to head into town alongside him. He kept the plans vague, just instructing, "Put on something cozy yet presentable." His mischievous grin sparked both doubt and intrigue inside me. We pulled up to an understated structure featuring expansive panes of glass. Stepping inside, the atmosphere carried hints of oil paints, fresh paper, and timber. I halted abruptly. My sketches adorned the walls, the woodland shrouded in fog, Chance dozing near the hearth, the cottage illuminated by moonlight, even a side view likeness of Nathan reclining by the windowsill. My pulse raced. What's going on?" I stammered, words catching in my throat. Nathan stepped nearer and passed me a program for the showing. "It's your display," he said, as though it were utterly ordinary. I chatted with the curator. I hoped they'd glimpse what filled my daily view. Covering my lips with a hand, I couldn't contain the tears. Visitors strolled the space, studying my pieces closely, murmuring softly among themselves. A lady neared the desk and purchased one of my illustrations, the cabin with wisps rising from its stack. "It radiates such serenity, like a real dwelling," she whispered as she settled the bill. That term, dwelling, struck deeply. For so many years I'd shunned the notion like an illusion bound to fade. Yet here it stood, etched on canvas, acknowledged by strangers. I faced Nathan, who observed quietly with his unique gaze, blending satisfaction and affection. "I can't fathom you arranged this," I uttered through the tears. He brushed my face gently with his knuckles. "You earned it, Lena. You've revived this place. Share what I've long recognized." Feelings surged through me. I'd concealed my art for ages, treating it like a hidden flaw. Now it glowed under spotlights, drawing praise from passers-by. This wasn't fantasy. It was tangible. Later that day, as the showcase wrapped up and the space cleared out, Nathan guided me to a final artwork. It was the piece I'd labored hardest over, since it depicted all I doubted I could portray. A domestic tableau. Nathan and me on the veranda, Chance nearby on the ground, his folks beaming behind us with a kindness I'd imagined exclusive to others' pasts. My fingertips grazed the frame, hesitant that the scene might vanish. "I believe I've ceased fleeing," I whispered, voice faint. Nathan encircled me with one arm, pressing his mouth to my brow. "Good, since I had no intention of letting you slip away." I shut my eyes, breathing in the familiar aroma of pine and brew that clung to him, and grinned. That evening, we made our way back. I draped the shawl from his mom near the doorway, marking it as a token. Chance curled up in his usual spot, and I flipped open a fresh pad for sketching. No more creating to escape. Now, it was to honor. For the initial time ever, I grasped the essence of belonging. Not on loan, not fleeting, a genuine haven. As I set the charcoal to the sheet, with Nathan nearby and the hearth's glow enveloping us, I vowed to myself I'd never bolt again. I discovered my spot, my kin, my sanctuary, my